Yeah, I'm singing English. Okay. Thank you for the warm words, Rabbi Reichik, and for the great Achnas Sorchem.
If someone in those...
From all the meisters that our institution is today, and my host, Rabbi Bastamsky, and his wife, and whoever invited us today, and everybody that came here, Rabbi Bastamsky, thank you so much. I said, just walked in, we should have spoken about Mashiach now.
We did.
Tonight is the old site from the Marash, I think.
No, the birthday.
The what? The birthday.
The birthday.
Oh, the old site, the birthday. It's something in Chabad. That's why I saw in Bastamsky's house, the kocht sich etwas wegen the Marash. So we'll start with the Marash. I think the story is the Marash, if I'm not mistaken. If not, you fix me. I'm always ready to learn. I think the story goes that either the Gabo or something, he was at Ungerim in Oilam, and he was taking the Chassidim were coming in, and he was sweating, and the Gabbai told him that the Rebbe has to change his clothes. He's sweating. It was the middle of the winter, and he's asking him, why is the Rebbe sweating in the winter? So he says, you don't understand. Comes into me within the hour about 20 people. I'm sitting here on the Rebbe's chair. This person has an issue. His child is going through some crisis. He has a shalom bayis problem. He might have panos. Maybe someone's not doing well in his family, physically, emotionally. How can I connect with him? I have to take off my shoes, my bgodim, my clothes, and go now into his shoes and feel his pain and be with him, listen to him. With all the empathy, feel that and that, but if I'm going to be there, I might sink with him together. So I have to go out of his clothes and then put back on my clothes. And if in an hour yechidus I take 20 people, 20 times 4 times getting dressed and undressed, is 80 times. In 1 hour, willst dich soll nicht schwitzen, you want I shouldn't sweat? That is empathy. And that is listening. The power of listening is not just, we know today with the generation, I think I heard from a great psychologist in the States, he said, we became a generation of communication without connection. Tikshoret beli kesher. We have a lot of tikshoret, a lot of communication, but without connection. And maybe this communication ruins a little. It does a lot of good things, but maybe it ruins. We don't have time to be able to really listen in. Now, just as I said, a picture is more worth than 1,000 words, and a film is more than 1,000 lectures. As Rabbi Reichik said, there's nothing more to add. Everything speaks for itself. If you give me even 20 hours, I won't be able to explain everything what is embedded in here. How many kalim, how many tools are embedded into this? I'm using basically one theory in psychology, which is called cognitive dissonance. If anybody knows what that is, cognitive dissonance means cognitive is the mind, dissonance, that means there's no balance, okay? Meaning that when someone has a setback, or someone is going through, someone criticizes you and puts you down. Now, how do you respond to that issue, to your setback, to your failure, or to this criticism with, if it's a child, it's a student, or a spouse, that tells you something? How do you get back your balance? Dissonance is balance. That means, are you shooting back at the other one? That means you did not listen to him. Because any issue, I spoke to a lot of schools today, and I mentioned everybody that's not communicating right, anybody that has a negative behavior, whether it's verbal, physical, emotional, is always there's some kind of issue behind it. And if you are shooting back at this guy, you did not listen to him. How do we balance back our well-being, whether I'm not doing well at any aspect in life, and if my child is speaking chutzpahdik to me, do I understand where that's coming from? And can I relate to that in the right manner? How do I balance back? Do I blame others? Do I have tirutzim? I have answers for everything. Why I'm not doing successful? Why I'm not bringing parnasa? Why are my children like this? Or I can stop and say, what can I do better? How can I balance myself back, take responsibility? And I said today in schools, the word responsibility is, the Hebrew word is achrayas. And achrayas, like a person, the word responsibility has two components. It's murker from two words. The ability to respond. How do you respond when you hear something? When your child comes and tells you he has an assignment. When your child comes home, what is the first thing you do? When a Rabbi is sitting in a lunchroom and a child gets kicked over with a chance having social issues, is it the first thing? What do? To give him food, or are we busy punishing him? Do we know how to listen? My father had a Talmud. 50 years he was a chinuch. And this child used to come late every single day. And every year either rabbis were punishing him in different ways. And nothing was changing. What he did was, he listened. And one day when the student comes in late, he takes out a piece of paper and he writes a few words and he gives him this piece of paper. The child reads it and he goes out and comes back 20 minutes later. And what happens is he sits down and starts learning. By recess, everybody asks him, what did the Rebbe write? And he writes like this, to the cook, Moshe came late today. I suppose, my assumption is that he didn't have time to eat breakfast. Chazal says, Kachalaschem kein toiraschem. According to how you eat, emein kemach ein Torah. Then that's the way you'll be able to be matzliach in Torah. We are learning now a sugya in the Gemara from Yeh Shaloi Midas. Moshe is very important to us. We need him to join us. Please give him his breakfast so he could join us to the shir and sign the Rebbe of Moshe. That was the emotional connection. He goes out of the class, he gives it to the cook, he got a breakfast which he never ate in his life. He joined the class. And this story I heard when I sat Shiva, my father, the principal of Torah Das came to tell me the story. And he tells me, you know what basically happened afterwards? This child never ever came late to the end of the year in class. Because someone listened to him. That's an emotional connection. When a child is trying to knock down another child with a chair or crack a joke, is anybody listening to these children that he might be impulsive, dealing with an ADHD situation, or the other kid dealing with an emotional situation, decide to become the clown of the class on the cheshbon of another child? Did anybody listen? Are the parents, which most of the emotional problems happen at home, when the child comes home and the child comes home with assignment, did someone sit with him to listen to him what is going through? The Rebbe has a lot of things to do in class. So if we understand, how are we going to balance back these kind of situations? Do we know how to listen to oneself? Cognitive dissonance says you cannot listen to anybody before you know how to listen to yourself. If you understood what the yoetz, what the advisor said here, he's told him, if you don't have hakshava pnimit, you don't have internal listening, you don't listen to yourself, you don't do what you really want to do, you are busy pleasing somebody else because you're not really reaching your goal. You cannot come and say, I want to do something which I want to do, and not run around the thoughts being a people pleaser. And he teaches him how to listen to himself. He then goes from the first step. There's 3 levels in this cognitive dissonance. The first thing is to be able to listen to yourself. One that cannot listen to himself cannot listen to anybody else. And he shows him with a lot of empathy, like we said in the story with the Marash, that when one listens to himself, he got empathy that he didn't start telling him, why don't you learn with your son? He didn't tell the Musa. He said, how's your business going? What was important for him? They say in Eishes Chayil, there's a song we sing every Friday night for the woman. Someone asked once, why doesn't the husband get a song? He doesn't deserve a song. So someone answered that there's 3 psukim in Eishes Chayil which we mentioned the husband. Anybody know? Botach bo leiv ba'alo v'sholo lo yachzor. What's the next one? Noido bashur and ba'alo v'shiftem zikne oretz. And komi voner v'yashua ba'alo v'yalelo. Did anybody work out that Rosh Tevis, that abbreviation? Bank. That's where the husband is. He is busy with the monetary things. He's busy with the business. He comes home, he's Abba Shel Shabbat. Where are you the whole week? In the Ovei Sabonim. The child wants to learn with you. See how much power we can give to a child. You sit down and what does he tell you? I want to be with you. I had more hanov, more pleasure from being with you than the learning itself. How much we could give to a child listening, but you cannot listen if you're so. The Gemara says, "Aidi de tored lemiflat leibola." If you're so busy giving out, you're busy with your business, you don't have time to do priorities. The Yoetz, the advisor, tells them, start listening to yourself, do what you really want to do. And he gives him the power to start listening to himself. He takes the courage and he tells his boss, Hayom zenigmar, it's finished, I'm not going to be your shmat anymore. Once he has that courage and he starts balancing himself back, he can now start listening to his child. And once when he starts listening to his child, he understands that even if there's a misbehavior or there's some kind of problem, he knows it's from this, it's a cry for help, and he knows how to help the child get the help that he needs. If he could give it, or the Rabbi could give it, or if he needs some kind of outside help, he balances back this negative behavior of a child, because the child listens the way we listen. If we know how to listen to them, and a child sees that a father listens to a mother, a mother listens to a father, Shuta di Yanuka, the Gemara says in Sukkah, the language of a child is Oy davua, Oy di imei. We just had it in Daf Yomi's end of Sukkah. It's either he heard it from his father, from his mother. What did this child hear? When he stood there and his father said, Hayom zenigmar. When he heard that his father had that courage, he saw that personal example. Now, the father's listening to him, he could get balance back, and that gives him the power to go into the third circle, which was the circle, the social circle. Now, these kids were laughing at him, they have issues. And children want to bring up their self-esteem. They don't want to work hard. This impulsive child, the one that kicked down the chair, or the other one that's not doing well in learning and he's a clown of the class and he could spill the other guy's blood to get a little attention. And the Rabbi, which was sitting there, was unbelievable. He wasn't even the mechanech, but he caught it. He was so sensitive, that Rabbi, and he was able to bring in the manal, and he was able to bring this whole turnabout. That's what systems work. When the parent, when the principal works with, he brings in an advisor, he works with somebody who he could get help from. He calls in somebody, and that person empowered the father. Every parent is good. There's no father and mother that doesn't want to be good for the children. They say in Hebrew, en yeled ra, there's no bad child. Yesh yeled sheralo, there's a child that's bad. I say, en abba v'ima ra, there's no mother and father that's bad. There's a father mother that knows how to listen, and there's a father mother that doesn't know how to listen, but everybody has the privilege to listen. And if we listen, then when the child starts understanding that the negative behavior of these children that try to get a ride on him, his self-esteem is falling because he has no ADHD, he has no ADD, he has no ODD. This child is a normal child. He doesn't have PDD either. No DD. He's a regular child, this mayor. He's just going through one situation. His mother is busy with kibud em, she's helping her mother. His father's trying to build a parnasa. Normal things, but they're missing their child. And what happens is children sense that. And any kid could do this kind of social stuff. He could be a good kid. How do we bring up such shloimalach? Why was there one child, shloimalach, which was so sensitive? When the Rebbe was sitting in the lunchroom, he said, no, he didn't do it. And he stood up against peer pressure. How did he have that power? How can we be megadol children that could stand against peer pressure? What was the answer? You tell me the answer. His father, who was the only person in always Subonim in Shabbos. When this child is standing like a lebedik yosem, a live orphan, walking around, it rips the heart to see such things every Shabbos in different shuls. When the father might be sleeping in bed, he might work hard, and the child is roaming around, and to get attention, he will steal candies. And we know, Reb Shamsha Fuller says that the reason one steals is not because his mother went to some kind of program that they taught to eat healthy, and therefore he doesn't get any candies at home, and he's only coming with cucumbers and asparagus, and that's why he's stealing. It could be she's going through some course, and she wants to train the children to eat normal. Most gnevis come from missing emotional connection. And we know in very rich neighborhoods is also when the parents don't have time for the children, it comes from a lack of connection. And they steal to get this connection. and I don't want to go into criminology now. There's a lot of research in that field that criminals that still want to be caught because they want this emotional connection. He's a fascinating insight of Shamshul Hirsch on this noise, and he says that a ganiv is sold as an eved. A ganiv is sold as an eved when he doesn't have money. So he asks in Parshas Mishpatim, every punishment has to be mido keneged mido. That's the derech haTorah. When you steal $100, kefel, $200, you're going to pay, feel what you wanted to do. That's the way you're going to fix that problem. But if he doesn't have money, he gets sold as eved. Why? Because the Gemara says that when you have an eved and there's only one pillow at home, who gets it? The eved. Osa odoin la'atzmoi. Says of Shamshul Hirsch that when you have that eved, he is sold, he has to do, I don't know, a corrective experience. In Hebrew it's called a chavaya mitakenet. Because he was lacking that emotional connection, he was brought up in a house which he didn't have that connection, he decided to steal to get that attention in the wrong way. Now you're going to be 6 years, you're going to get that emotional connection because the Adoninis have to care for you. You have to do your work, but you're going to be in a better situation and you're going to have that corrective experience that after 6 years, you're going to feel so good with yourself, you're not going to have to steal anymore. That is a real punishment according to Chazal with the insights of Shamshul Hirsch. So if we understand that these children are doing these things because the child has an option to learn with his friend's father, but he needs friends. What doesn't one do for friends? He's ready to steal, to be their fetch fellow. He's ready to do whatever. Just look at me. And if we understand now, when he now sees that his father listens to himself, and his father's listening to him, he starts learning with him, all of a sudden he gets courage, and when these kids he comes at the end of the film and he grabs away that paper because they know this kid, you can do whatever you want, he gets up and says, 1 second, this kid is trying to catch a ride on my back. He has a problem. I'm going to stand for my rights. And he says also, Hayom zenigmar. Today it's over. You're not going to do it because he learned the same thing. And see what happens. The child doesn't fight with him. He sits down next to him on the stone. He joins him and he even invites him to be his friend. Why? Because these kids are not. It's not good for them. They're not in a good shape.